Let's take a look at some information charts on ZRX for BraveNewCoin. So ZRX is a DEX protocol originally, morphed into a liquidity aggregator for DEXs and DeFi applications. So we'll take a look at the volumes on all of that, the on-chain stats for the token as well, which are pretty poor. But the jewel in the crown of the ZRX machine is Matcha. Super clean UI and trading interface comparatively to most crypto exchanges. They have limit orders as well for a DEX. That's a big deal. At least on certain pairs they have limit orders. And generally it's just super easy to trade on something like this, especially for new people who are used to like the Robinhood interface or whatever. So that's a big win for crypto as a whole to get improved UI, UX. All this is of course interoperable with MetaMask and any other wallet that services Ethereum. So they've done well from that aspect. There's also a governance component, which for the most part, governance on anything is kind of silly unless there's an actual debate about it, because otherwise it's just 100% votes for one side or the other most of the time. I mean, if you did some analysis on these, my guess is most of these votes pass with 90% plus approval with very little pushback or debate. So governance exists, but it only really matters when there's an issue that is worth debating, you know, because most of this just gets auto passed basically, which is what it is. It's fine. I'm just analyzing what's going on there. They also have a staking component-ish with ZRX where you can collect fees in ETH, which is probably a good thing considering the ZRX price chart is kind of flat or not as speculatively exciting as the Ethereum chart. These accrue weekly, and by the looks of it, there's not a whole lot of activity going on. Currently, there's 81 million ZRX staked. Weekly rewards are minimal, to say the least, but they're not zero. These are going to be variable, and at times better than what you can get on any other staking service, as well as better than what you can get with lending USDC or any stablecoin. So much like the governance component, it exists, but it's not going to like bring people to the table for ZRX as the coin itself. Volumes on ZRX aggregators have continued to increase over the past year, hitting all-time highs, trades rising to all-time highs as well. So as a service, it's done very well. Matcha, other relayers, 1inch as well, all this stuff kind of talks to each other and provides volume for everything else. Version 4 looks like the de facto winner here for the protocol as a percentage of market share. I mean, what you don't want is a uni situation where version 2 is maybe more used than version 3. Then it's kind of like, why did we bother? You know, active traders also at all-time highs or near all-time highs. So people are using ZRX. That isn't worth debating at all based on volumes and user numbers. It's the token itself that has always struggled to find a use case in any way, shape, or form. If we look at total DEX volume over the past 24 hours, the orange and gray tabs here are ZRX related aggregation. So a smaller slice of the pie, certainly. And on a daily level in the fuchsia purple down here, monthly in the gold. So you can see they had a ton of volume in May. Basically, that was their all-time high as far as ZRX native is concerned. And now it's been reducing over the past few months. It's not going anywhere. You know, I don't expect it to overtake Uni or Sushi. It's an aggregator. At the end of the day, it's not going to overtake these others that have incentives to trade on them. But it's important to have services like aggregation. You know, again, does this translate into token value? I don't know. You know, if we look at the on-chain stats, transaction counts basically at all-time lows. Not a lot of transactions going on there. Transaction values near all-time highs because ETH fees are extremely high and painful right now to deal with. So that's not surprising. They're seeing basically transactions trend to zero as fees are rising on Ethereum. NVT, inverse metric of economic utility, relative to market cap is declining, so that's bullish. It is in the lower third of levels seen historically on ZRX, but active addresses are basically at all-time lows, which along with transaction counts doesn't give me a lot of hope. You know, if you are holding ZRX, you're not really doing much with it. there isn't really much to do with it. You can lend it out, I guess, on Aave, Compound, wherever those services are available. But, there's not much you can do with it. And this is really for all DeFi tokens. It's not really just ZRX, but ZRX is probably the most blatant example of just lack of on-chain activity currently. If we look at MVRV, similar to NVT, MVRV is a measure of market cap versus realized cap or on-chain activity. So in general, most coins top out at a 2x multiple. And we can see historically, ZRX hit 3x multiple in 2018, a 1.3 multiple in May 2018, and then most recently a 1.7 multiple in February, and price kept going. So anything above 1.5 is be careful territory, depending on how price looks. Currently it's at 1.05, so it's got a little ways to run on MVRV. But if on-chain activity picks up, then yeah, market cap, this says market cap can go higher, but if on-chain activity continues to decline with market cap rising, there's a divergence there, and MVRV is going to rise faster, and it's going to top out faster. So I would watch this if you're a ZRX trader, certainly. ZRX on Google Trends, probably just meaningless. There's a bunch of like car terms, radio terms with ZRX. This was maybe the token related here in February. You can try to narrow this down, I guess, in saying like protocol or 0x. It's hard to know with some of these that are just other stuff. This is ETH addresses as well. So it's not always a usable signal there on Google Trends. Moving on to technicals, 5200 EMAs, yearly pivots, VPVR. And this does have a bullish 5200 cross on the daily-ish. It's good enough for me to count as a cross. It's gone from deeply negative to zeroed out. So if this is going to have a run, this is probably a good place. If you missed the bounce, it's mean reverted completely to the 200-day moving average. It's back at $1, which is the psychological support resist level. So if this is going to move, I like it from here to higher highs. It pulled back 36% from the highs. It has a tweezer bottom here, confirmed now. Pierced the key June and bounced twice on the daily. The issue is it's in the cloud here. So based on strict cloud principles, you are avoiding anything in the cloud because it's neutral. It's random territory, basically. There was an edge-to-edge trade to be had that missed the mark just barely here at 138 to 150. So you could have added at the key June, right? But the risk here now is that this thing just goes completely random, turtle soup, below the cloud, above the cloud, I don't know. But into October, into mid-October, I'll be able to tell you without a doubt whether or not this is bullish or not on the cloud if this holds above 110 into October. If it doesn't, if it makes lower lows, it probably does so along with everything else. If this goes sub 80 cents, it's definitely going to revisit 50 cents, and then it risks full-blown bearishness. So probably a lot of chop between now and mid-October based on the daily cloud. ZRX BTC at the bottom of the historic range since 2019, and it's well within the VPVR zone. So if you're a range trader, you love this as a buy. If you're a trend trader, you've avoided this entire thing since 2019. It's a random mess, right? Like for me, this is just a screaming giant avoid, but I know people who love trading ranges like this. So if you're trading the range, you buy the lows, you sell the highs, you'd be done with it, right? It's just not for me. It doesn't look super weak, but it just doesn't look like it wants to go anywhere fast. Against ETH, it is at all-time lows with a multi-month bull div, with a potential Adam and Eve, right? Like this could mean revert to the 200 and then keep going to the support resist level. That's lots of prognostication from here, but that's one way this could play out as a Adam and Eve, and then you see higher highs from there. So if you're into buying knives and all-time lows, this isn't a terrible place to do it based on the divergences. It's just, do you really want to hold ZRX over ETH? Fundamentally, I don't think so. But maybe there's some people out there that will trade this based on technicals and not fundamentals. ZRX doesn't really have too much going for it. Again, the protocol's great. It works. The aggregator, important service. But the use case for the token is slim to none at best, in my opinion. Lastly, I'll just mention the APTC fund and DeFi portfolio. I trade for Techme Capital at Enzyme.finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send Ether USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM performance allocation, all the yield plays I'm in here. ZRX is in here somewhere on compound, so I'm getting some sort of yield. Although the yield, the idea of a yield on anything is getting sillier and sillier because fees are getting higher and higher and higher. So unless you're throwing a ton of money into any pool, the fees are just eating you alive, basically, because it's one way, or it's two transactions, so it's in and out. And then you have to make money on top of that, obviously, to turn a profit on the yield. So it's to the point where it's almost not even worth it. Even to pull out USDC from a Yearn vault is costing me over 0.2 ETH with gas what it is right now, which is relatively low compared to where it's been over the past couple days. So anyway, it's just me griping about ETH. And you can also see trades in the trades tab down below. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.